Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is whilst you're watching this. I hope you're having a good day. I'm here to make it a little bit fruitier. It's time we had a talk about the birds and the bees. I have spoken before on this channel about sex, about coitus, sexual intercourse. And the reason I spoke about it was because my sex education was little more than an 80-year-old teacher handing me a condom and banana, and then just expecting me to just figure the rest out. It was like we were playing dot to dot and I was just having to fill in all the holes, if you'll excuse the pun. That original sex ed video did pretty well and a lot of people appreciated it. So today, with the lovely help of the people over at Lilo, yes, Lilo, I'm bringing you a part 2, baby. So I asked you guys over on my Instagram to send me all of your questions that you were too afraid to ask during sex education class. Here is my Instagram, by the way. Go and give it a follow if you want to be involved in more videos like this in the future, or if you just like my face. You know? You lovely lot asked me almost 1,000 questions. As much as I would love to give the answers to all of them, that's just impossible. So I went through the questions and I selected the ones that were the most frequent and also the ones that had the best educational aspect to them. My answers will be based upon my experiences, the people around me's experiences, and from what I've read online. If at any point you find that your personal experience is different to the answer that I give, please let me know in the comments down below. Because everybody is different and every experience is entirely unique. But for the purpose of this Q&A, I have to generalize, otherwise we wouldn't get anything done. Before we get started with the actual questions though, everyone say a big thank you in the comments to Lilo. Their sponsorship is the reason that I'm able to make videos like this, despite the fact that YouTube demonetizes anything to do with sex, even when it's educational. So big shout out to Lilo. Information is power. Power to the people. Right, enough jibber jabbering, my apologies. On to the questions. Sorry, one more thing. I've linked all the questions in the description, so if you don't want to sit through the whole video and there's a particular issue that's incredibly pressing on your mind, just go through the description and have a look and see if you can find your question and then get your answers. Although I won't lie, I would appreciate the watch time, so please watch it all. How do I know if I'm ready? I'm assuming they mean ready for sex, as opposed to just, you know, ready to go out, ready for breakfast. For most people, the build up to sex works on a gradient, so you don't normally go from no experience to full-blown intercourse. There's usually a progression that goes on there. This progression usually starts with, you know, a bit of kissing, some heavy petting, there then may be foreplay, and then usually from that point on, the sexual tension builds until you end up feeling ready for sex. I just want to very quickly say, when that happens, by the way, buy some condoms, goddammit. Don't let your hormones carry you away to the point where you're having sex without protection. Prepare for that. If you're mature enough to have sex, you're mature enough to bag it, alright? You just have to listen to your body, listen to your emotions, listen to your head. If your body starts feeling like it's getting very excited, try and consolidate that with your emotions. Do you feel emotionally comfortable to go that far with this person? Do you feel mentally prepared enough? Do you feel like you have enough information? And then if you find that your hormones and your emotions and your head all kind of consolidate, you will feel like you're on the same level, then you'll know you're ready. Some people feel that they're ready when they're 15 and some people feel that they're ready when they're 28. You do not have to feel ready just because someone close to you is ready. You do not have to feel like you have to have sex just because of how old you are or because all your friends are doing it. You should never allow someone to pressure you or a society to pressure you into thinking that you should be ready to have sex before you are ready. Have sex when you want to, not when anyone tells you you should. Next question. Is your first time always awkward/bad? I'm gonna describe it this way. The first time you learnt to walk, right? You're a little baby, you took a couple of steps and then you fell on your ass. Everyone clapped. Good job. But the next time you tried to walk, you went a bit further and eventually you were really good at walking and then you started running and it was amazing. And it was like, yeah, losing your virginity is like the first time you tried walking. It's kind of bad, but you know, it's still a great achievement. It sets the foundation for your later sexual development. The experience is special because it's your first experience, not because you're supposed to be mind-blowing at sex. It's okay for it to be a bit awkward and for it to be a bit bad. But having said that, I'm not saying you can't have mind-blowing sex your first time, I'm just speaking generally. If you have had an insanely good losing your virginity, please let me know down below. I'd be incredibly curious to hear what the sex wizard community amongst us has experienced. Next question. What do you do if your girl is waiting for marriage but you don't want to? Okay, I'm just gonna tell you the options that you already know you have. Number one, you love this person and you respect their choices and you are willing to wait for them. Number 2, you love this person and you respect their choices, but sex is also an incredibly important thing to you, which is completely fine, there is no shame in that, and you break up with them. I know it's not as easy as that, but those are ultimately the 2 options that you have. Something you shouldn't do is pressure that person to have sex with you, because a big part of a relationship is respecting each other's choices. Convincing or forcing that person to have sex with you because it's what you want is entirely selfish, it's not your decision to make, and so you should just make decisions based off the things you do have power on, which is whether you stay in a relationship and you wait, or you decide that sex is a big part of your life and what you want it to be, and you don't want to wait, and so you don't be in a relationship with them. Now, she should not similarly shame you for making that decision, because if you don't shame her for wanting to wait, she shouldn't shame you for not wanting to wait, and you should understand that your ideas are at a impasse. I mean, you could make a pact with her whereby you could have sex with other people and remain in a relationship with her. It's called an open relationship. You can do that if you wish to, but it is not a common thing, I would say. If anyone else can think of any other options, let me know in the comments down below. Right, this is the last question on virginity, and then we'll move on to the next topic. I'm 19 and have never been in any form of relationship, sexual or otherwise. Am I missing out? I'm going to be completely honest with you. Yes, you are missing out, but you're missing out on the same amount that people in relationships are missing out on. Being single has its massive pros. For example, you're able to grow independently as a person. You're able to really self-actualize and understand what it is you are and what you're about and what you want to do. You're allowed to pursue your dreams and your goals without having to worry about the impact on that on your significant other. A lot of people in relationships don't have the same freedom to have personal growth. A lot of relationships, especially when you're much younger, that's a lot of formative years that you spend growing with someone. Now, whilst that isn't necessarily bad, a lot of people get out of those relationships that they had when they were younger during, the teenage years, the formative years, and they're like, I'm not dating anyone for 3 years. I need to spend some time on my own. I need to know who I am independently as a person. And that's because they never really had that time to have that personal growth. So don't look at this as a negative. Look at it as a huge opportunity for you to take this time to really understand yourself, both emotionally, mentally, physically, and stop comparing it to relationships, because you'll get there. And it doesn't matter if it happens tomorrow, in a week's time, in a year's time. Knowing about yourself as an individual first is a huge benefit in that situation. Also, I want to point out that being single when you're like 19 and not having a lot of sexual experience is completely normal. I know a lot of times society and uni culture can make you feel like you're abnormal if you hadn't had sex yet or you hadn't been in a relationship yet, but I'm pretty sure you're in the majority. Don't worry about it. You're completely fine. Right, that's everything on virginity now. We're moving on to the other stuff. What does consent mean? Right, this one's a really important one, so it might be a little bit of a long explanation, but I'll try and squidge it down for you. Consent means that you give permission for someone to do something. Now, in this context, it means that you give permission for someone to engage in sex or sexual behaviors with you. The legal age of consent is different in every single country, but it is the legal age in which a government recognizes that a person is of sound mind, they're mature enough, they're emotionally developed enough to give consent to have sex with someone in that country. For example, here in the UK, the legal age of consent is 16 years old. The legal age of consent exists to protect children from being sexually abused or exploited by older people. It's not there to dictate when you should be ready to have sex. You cannot, under any circumstances, have sex with someone who is under the legal age of consent. Now, moving on to the more complicated issues regarding consent. In order to give consent, a person must be of sound mind and maturity. They cannot be in a state where their judgment or their ability to make decisions is impaired. For example, if someone is under the influence of drugs, they cannot give you consent. If you have sex with someone who is absolutely wasted, that is not consent, and that could be sexual assault and/or rape. If a person is unable to communicate in any way, or they are unable to express that they are not happy and they don't want to have sex with you, then they cannot give consent. If you are unsure at any point that the person you're about to have sex with or engage in sexual behaviors with is not of a coherent mind, stop. Because it is a lot safer to err on the side of caution than it is to go through with it and then to later find that that person was so drunk or so impaired that they couldn't express that they didn't want to do that. The best way to make sure you have consent is just to ask. Ask the person, Is this what you want to do? Are you sure that this is something you're comfortable with? Is it okay if I do this? These are all great ways to ask for consent. And if someone asks you these, the best thing that you can do in that situation is be completely honest and clear. If you want to continue with that, just say yes, give me that. If you are not comfortable with that happening, say no, I'm not comfortable with that. Can you stop? Can we stop? These are all great ways to communicate whether you give consent or not. Another thing about consent is it can be given or taken at any point in time. If someone says, yes, I want to have sex with you, and then you start having sex, and then they say, actually, no, stop, I don't want to have sex anymore, it is completely valid, and it stands, and you have to listen to it. That was the best I could do in terms of quickly explaining consent to you. If I missed anything and you think it's important, please do let me know in the comments down below. Whew. Consent is a very heavy topic. My God. Next question. Now, the next lot of questions I have is about female masturbation. Now, the reason I've included this kind of as its own little category is because I received a shocking amount of messages from young women and people with vaginas who had no clue what was going on in terms of masturbation. And I can relate to this because I myself didn't even know that women could orgasm until I was like 16 years old. And even then, it was my boyfriend that told me. So, A star, sex education, you did great. Right, now, the two most common questions I got relating to female masturbation were, how do I know if I orgasmed because I don't know if I'm doing it properly? And how do girls masturbate? So to answer these questions, I'm going to go over the general gist of what female masturbation is, how one does it, and what an orgasm generally feels like so you can better identify it for yourself. But in general, I would say if you're questioning whether you've had an orgasm, it would probably suggest you haven't had one, as the female orgasm is known for being an incredibly powerful orgasm. During this segment, I'm also going to bring up the lovely people at Lilo because we're going to talk about masturbation with toys as well. So look out for that. Something that continually shocks me is the fact that only 40 to 60% of women masturbate compared to 95% of men. Now, this is insane when you consider the fact that women are not only just capable of orgasms, but they're capable of multiple orgasms. Women can literally one-up men every single time. This means that you can orgasm and then in a very short period of time after, you can orgasm again, whereas most males orgasm and then need a recharge period until they can orgasm again. First thing you need to know is that only around 18% of women can actually orgasm from penetration alone, which means that if you can't orgasm from being fingered or having sex, that means you're in the vast majority. Most women need stimulation of the clitoris in order to be able to climax. Now here's a picture of a vulva. This little knob in here is the clitoris. This is where you want to be. Often the easiest way for women to orgasm is through solo play. Particularly if it is your first time, it's incredibly important to allow yourself the opportunity to discover your body sexually. Now typically for people who are first timers, the easiest way for you to reach orgasm will be in fact with your fingers. I would recommend for starters that you make sure you're incredibly comfortable, that you're in a safe space, you feel good, you feel fruity, maybe put some music on, some mood lighting, and then just slide a hand down there. Now, once you've found the clitoris, which should feel like that little knobbin, don't know why I keep using the word knobbin, you can try a series of different strokes. Now, these will often involve circular movements or side-to-side movements. Just do what feels good. You can also vary in speed depending on what feels pleasurable. Now, this is just going to be a general experience of how an orgasm builds and how you climax. If your experience is different, feel free to share it in the comments below. Don't worry, you're not weird. Every single body reacts differently to different things. When you masturbate, it should be pretty obvious what feels good and what doesn't. When you repeatedly do something that feels good, you should start to feel a kind of warm feeling in the lower part of your abdomen. It might feel like a little ball at first that just grows and grows and grows. Eventually, it will get to a point where it feels incredibly pleasurable, and you will end up feeling like you've walked up a mountain and you're right at the top and you're just looking down the other side and you're like, oh God. Oh God. You may get weird sensations when you start to build your orgasm, such as a desire to pee. This is normal. At this point, if you keep going and keep doing what's pleasurable, you will climax. Now this will feel like you have jumped off the other side of the mountain, and that warm feeling that was in the lower part of your abdomen should begin to feel like it waves through your entire body. When you climax, you will know that you've climaxed. It's always insane to me that not a lot of women masturbate or know about masturbation or multiple orgasms, because not only do orgasms help improve your mental health by helping to reduce stress and improve body image, but they can also help improve your physical health. Orgasms can help you sleep better, they can help improve the pain of headaches and cramps, and they can even help tone your pelvic muscles. What more could you want Now, once you are comfortable using your fingers to climax, you may wish to move on to a different kind of sexual experience with the use of sexual aids, such as sex toys. Now, this is where I introduce our lovely friends Lilo and the Sonar 2 Cruise. I have actually used this, like I've opened it, but I put it back in the box because I think it looks really fancy. Look at her go. Wow. She is sexy though. Look at that. Oh, dropped it. Now, sex toys are brilliant because they can help you reach climax in a way that is different entirely to using your fingers. For example, sex toys that are incredibly popular are vibrators, which produce small vibrations which stimulate the clitoris, which can allow you to climax in an entirely different kind of way. Now, the reason I'm showing you the Sonar 2 Cruise is because unlike traditional vibrators, this stimulates the entire clitoris rather than just the tip of it. And as the clitoris is, you know, the most important part for most of us in terms of orgasm, it can give you a more wholesome type of orgasm because obviously the whole clit is stimulated rather than just the tip. This toy is also perfect for people looking to explore their ability to have multiple orgasms because it has 12 different settings. 12, which means that it's perfect to find things that work not only to reach your first orgasm, but to reach your second. For most people reaching multiple orgasms, you can't use the same technique for both. For example, one will need to be quite fast usually, and the other is reached through a more slow, gradual process and build to orgasm. I have actually used this myself, and all I'm going to say is that it's top notch. Real A-star quality. Girls got better curves than I do. Now, I just want to really quickly say that the reason I chose to partner with Lilo for this video and not a different sex toy company was because Lilo is a company that genuinely cares about improving the female relationship to masturbation. I actually owned Lilo products prior to doing this video, and they are the best toys that I have ever used in my life. I honestly believe that every person with a clitoris deserves the opportunity to experience a Lilo toy. So there is a link in the description to the Sonar 2 Cruise. Please give it a look, buy it, get it, experience it. Trust me, you will not regret it. Everyone say thank you to Lilo for sponsoring this video and making it possible. Mwah! We love Lilo. Buy their sex toys. Now, I had a lot of questions about how is the best way to have safe, straight sex. There is a lot of advice online for straight, safe sex, and there is also a lot of advice in most sex education curriculums. I'm only going to briefly cover it now because I just want this to be all-encompassing as an educational video. But here we go! Safe sex, straight edition. One of the cheapest and most easily accessible forms of contraception for straight sex is condoms. Yay! Condoms are usually made of latex and they go over the penis and they act as a glove. It's like in baseball, you know, when someone catches the ball, except the ball is cum. It just catches it. Now, not only is this great because it can help protect you from pregnancy, but it can also help protect you from sexually transmitted infections and diseases. This is very important unless, you know, you want gonorrhea. A lot of people can be carriers of STIs and not have any symptoms. So you could be walking around with chlamydia, giving it to everyone without even knowing it. You should be getting tested for STIs every single time you change sexual partners. You can walk into a sexual health clinic and get a free STI test. It'll do all the bits and bobs. They'll send you a text to let you know your results, and if you have anything, they'll then tell you to come back in and they'll explain treatment for it. Most STIs are incredibly easily treated, so there's no excuse to live with them. The testing is, like I said, free, it's anonymous, and it's there for your benefit and the benefit of your sexual partners. Please go and get yourself tested. Now, the other forms of contraception for females, for straight sex to protect from pregnancy, these will not protect you from STIs, by the way, they're just for pregnancy, include, but are not limited to, the pill, the mini pill, the coil, the copper coil, an IUD, an implant, and an injection. Now, all of these forms of contraception, except the copper coil, involve hormones, which means that they put a hormone into you, which is either estrogen or progesterone, usually, and these influence your fertility temporarily. They are not permanent, they only work and they only protect you for as long as you are following the instructions, and for example, if you have an implant, for as long as it is inside of you. So as soon as you stop taking them, or as soon as you get it taken out, you are no longer covered and protected from pregnancy. Something to note is that with these hormonal forms of contraception, there can be side effects because obviously you're influencing your mood and your body with hormones. Most of the time, people don't get side effects and they're completely fine, but for some of us, you will get side effects. These can range from minor weight gain to depression. Now, I'm not saying any of this to scare you, I'm just saying this to keep you aware. If you do notice that your mood starts to change, for example, once you started taking this pill, for example, if 3 weeks on it, you're a lot more unhappy than you were prior to taking it and the only thing different in your lifestyle is your pill, go back to your doctors immediately and get it changed. There is no point suffering with a form of contraception that you think is making you unhappy or is giving any other form of negative side effect, because there are so many other options available to you. Unfortunately, for people with vaginas, the most effective way to find a contraception that works for you and your body is just trial and error. Every single body is different, which means that different pills and different forms of contraception will work differently on everyone. Just because your pal is on the implant and, you know, they're doing great, it doesn't mean that you will be doing great on it. So just listen to your body, listen to your emotions, and, you know, just be very aware that when you are taking contraception, there can sometimes be side effects. But remember, just because these protect you from pregnancy, they do not protect you from STIs. Use the condoms. Double bag it. Don't double bag it. I don't think you'd feel anything. Okay, I think that just about covers straight sex. Let's move on to LGBTQ sex. Sorry, I'm having a little chocolate break. Damn it, I just remembered this chocolate has popping candy in. It's gonna be annoying for you lot. Right, so I got a lot of questions about same-sex sex. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go through very briefly how people with PPs have sex together and how people with vajayjays have sex together and the ways in which they can do that. And then I'm gonna go through contraception that works to protect same-sex sex havers, try saying that really fast 3 times, from STIs, because although there's no risk of pregnancy, you can still get your STIs. Okay, so the most popular way in which people with PPs can have sex with people with PPs is through anal sex. Now, anal sex is pretty self-explanatory. It involves putting a PP inside of an anus. I'm gonna go over it in more detail a little bit later, because anal sex is something that heterosexual people can also enjoy, so I'm gonna go over that in more detail, but that is one of the most common ways in which gay people have sex. There is a culture of tops and bottoms. Now, these are people who are either on the receiving end of anal sex or they are the givers of anal sex, the tops being the people who are giving. A lot of the time, people who are tops are portrayed as incredibly masculine and dominant figures, whilst bottoms are seen as more submissive. But this is just a stereotype, and whilst some people may live up to it, you don't have to. If you're a bottom and you feel powerful and you don't feel like you're a submissive kind of person, that's completely okay. At the same time, if you're a top and you feel that you are a very neutral person, this is just the preferred role during sex, that's okay. Do not feel pressured by the stereotypes and don't feel you have to live up to them or that you are defined by them. It's just how you enjoy having sex. You don't need to put a label on it if you don't want to. You don't need to refer to yourself as tops or bottoms. You're just 2 people having sex. Alright, don't worry about it. There is obviously, of course, oral sex, and there is also play with toys. These are all things that gay people can enjoy. Now, the safest way for people with PPs to have sex with people with PPs is by using a condom. There is a lot of stigma within the gay community about using condoms, which is why things like AIDS and STIs spread so prevalently. The risk of a gay person contracting an STI is incredibly high compared to the rest of the population, so please do use condoms. STIs can be spread through oral sex, so mouth on privates, and they can also be spread through anal sex. Anytime in which a body part is going into an intimate area of the body and there are fluids involved, that is an opportunity for you to catch an STI. Please do wear condoms. They're important, they protect you. If you would like at any point not to wear a condom, both parties involved need to go and get themselves tested. If you do find it a bit uncomfortable to ask, hey, can we get ourselves tested? Just put it into perspective that feeling a bit uncomfortable and asking that is worth not feeling the discomfort that comes with having an STI. So please go get yourself tested, even if you feel awkward. Go get your partner tested. It's a perfectly normal thing to ask. It's good for you. It's good for your health. Do it. For my vajayjay havers who like having sex with vajayjay havers, the most common ways in which you can have sex are oral sex, finger play involving fingering or clitoral stimulation, just teasing in general around the area. You can use toys. You can have toys that involve penetration. You can have toys that involve clitoral stimulation. You can also have sex whereby you have direct clitoris to clitoris stimulation. I don't know why I stumbled over the word clitoris so much. It's a hard word to say. Positions of this that are made popular in porn include scissoring, which is essentially where you straddle your legs together and you kind of push and rub against each other to get clitoral stimulation, which will hopefully bring you both to climax. Now, a common misconception is that every single person enjoys scissoring, and that is the most common and only position in which people with vaginas can have sex together. If you just Google lesbian sex positions, you will find so many articles written by queer and gay people that will give you much better insight into the variety of positions that you can do that will feel good for you. These are positions that are not popularized by their visual appeal, but by how they actually made the people feeling them feel. So you know that you can trust them. Experiment, explore, see what feels best for you. And remember, sex does not need a penis for it to be sex, alright? Do not let anyone invalidate that you are having sex because there's no PP involved. Don't worry about it, it's still sex, it still counts. A really good company is Diva, I think it's called. It is a lesbian and bi magazine, I think you'd categorize it as, but they have a lot of articles online for same-sex orientated people in the women variety. Now, in terms of protection from STIs, very important for my lesbian lovers. Now, the best form of protection from STIs for you lot include a dental dam. Now, a dental dam is a small rectangular piece of latex that is designed to go between a mouth and a vagina during oral sex. This will protect both of you from each other's fluids, and it'll stop you from getting STIs. These dental dams can also be used during vagina to vagina contact. If you are doing finger play, so for example, you are stimulating the clitoris or you are fingering each other, do not then use the same fingers to insert into your own body or play with your own vulva. If you are inserting your fingers into anyone, I would strongly recommend washing your hands before even considering touching yourself or anyone else, just because this will help prevent the spread of STIs. Fingering someone and then fingering yourself will give you a high chance of getting an STI. The best way to protect yourself from STIs is just to make sure you're both tested, make sure, you know, everything's good under the hood, quite literally, and then that way, obviously, you don't necessarily need to use the dental dams because you're both aware that you're clear and you're groovy and everything's fine. Now, the next lot of questions are going to be regarding LGBTQ specific issues regarding sexuality and sex. If you are not a member of the LGBTQ community, I would recommend you still listen to them because someone close to you might be, and these might be issues that are very relevant to them in their life, and it'd be good for you to be informed on them. So yeah, let's go. Can you be bisexual/pansexual if you've only had sex with X gender? And by that, I think they mean if you are bisexual and you've only had sex with women, are you still bisexual? You do not need to whip out your sexual history in order to validate your sexual identity to yourself or to anyone else. As long as you are comfortable identifying how you are and as long as you're happy, it doesn't matter. You're valid. Next question. How do I know my sexuality isn't a phase? Now, this is a really interesting one because I feel like the idea of a sexuality being a phase is something that is primarily driven by straight people. A lot of people say, you know, you're just trying to experiment, you know, you're just in a phase, you know, and eventually you'll balance yourself out and you become normal. And I think that the internalized concern over whether your sexuality is a phase is because of that social stigma. I don't think that a lot of people who are gay or a lesbian or bi or pan or whatever your identity is would question themselves as much if it was as socially acceptable to be any of them as it is straight. However, that does not mean that if you are concerned about your sexual identity that you are invalid. For a lot of people, the process of understanding their sexuality can be incredibly stressful because it's hard sometimes, especially in this society, to know how you identify. But I think the best thing you can do for yourself is just remove the pressure. There's no force for you to identify as anything, just be you and explore your sexuality as and when you feel comfortable to. You're completely valid regardless. Just don't worry about it. Next question. How do I come out to homophobic parents? My first piece of advice to you is that you should not come out if you are not safe to do so. It's just to judge whether or not you will be in any danger if you do come out. If you think that you are, I would wait until you are in a position to move out and to get away from that terrible situation in order to be able to live your full self. And I know that is incredibly hard to hear because it can feel incredibly repressive, and I can only imagine how horrible it would be to feel that you couldn't live freely in your own home. And my best advice is to find a safe space alongside that space in which you can express yourself, whether that be with a group of friends at school or whether that be in a club or an online community that will be able to alleviate some of the pain of having to repress yourself potentially whilst you live in that environment. If you think you are not in any immediate danger, then perhaps I would start with generally starting to bring up the discussion of sexuality more with your parents. Start by saying, you know, we were talking about homosexuality today in class and this is what I learned, and just measure their reactions. If you start talking about sexuality more in a more educational sense and picking up a discussion where you can talk freely about it, but in an ambiguous sense so that it's not relating directly to you, it might help your parents change their attitudes If you feel that those discussions are going well and there is some progress and they are being more tolerant and more accepting, then I would suggest potentially coming out. But overall, the underlying bottom line is do not come out if you think there's any danger to yourself. Like, my number one priority is protecting you and protecting your life, because you are an incredibly important person in this universe and you deserve to be here and you deserve love and you do not deserve to be judged and to face backlash for being who you are. You are valid, even if your parents think you're not. You do not need their approval to exist. You do not need their approval to be deserving of love. You are all of those things. Don't worry about it. Final question. I'm a pillow princess and just getting her fingers in hurts. Help? Question mark, question mark? You'll be hearing advice similar to this in the next segment when I talk about anal sex, but my best advice to you is to make sure, one, that you are properly aroused. Make sure that you are in the vibe. If you are not relaxed, your muscles will tense, which will make it a lot more difficult for any kind of penetration. Not only that, but if you're not aroused enough, your body will not lubricate itself, so you will not get wet, and that will make it incredibly hard, and it can also be incredibly painful. So make sure you're relaxed, make sure you are fully aroused before you try any form of penetration, fingers or otherwise. And if it still is difficult, I would recommend investing in a water-based lube. So heavily lube up and, then give it a go. I would also recommend only using one finger and learning to adjust to that and going incredibly slowly just to become comfortable with it. However, if you go through all of this and the problem persists and it's still incredibly painful, I would highly recommend you go to the doctor to just double check everything's all right down there. Do not feel awkward about it. Do not feel stressed about it. It's your body. You deserve to have it looked after and working well and healthy. So just go to the doctor and give it a look. It might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but trust me, it's worth it. Now, onto anal. Now I'm going to explain the top tips for safe anal sex, and the reason I didn't do this when I discussed gay sex earlier was because that anal sex is something that is increasingly popular now with hetero couples as well. So this is just general advice for everyone, whether you're gay or not. I want to just brief this by saying anal play in general, especially if you are a man, does not mean that you are gay or that you have gay inclinations. If you are a straight person and you enjoy anal play, that is completely okay. The male G-spot is actually inside the anus, so there is no shame at all in getting pleasure from that. Anal play, if you're enjoying it and you're doing it safely, is completely fine no matter what your sexual orientation. So, feel free to explore. Just do it safely. Top tips for anal play. Number 1, make sure you are relaxed. The best way to do this is to make sure that you are not just going from 0 to anal sex. Become comfortable with the area, especially on your own and with your partner. Play with the area, tease the area. Perhaps try becoming comfortable with penetration in the area by using fingers or toys such as anal beads or anal plugs, but make sure they are small to start with. You do not want to be pushing your body too far, making it too uncomfortable, which would make you incredibly tense. The more play and exploration you do with the area, the more comfortable you'll be with that in general. Also, the more penetration you do with that area, you will be able to build up your tolerance gradually towards having anal sex. In regards to any form of penetration regarding the anus, you do want to be using lube because the anus has no ability to self-lubricate. So my best advice is using a water-based lube, and I'm saying water-based because water-based will not erode the latex in a condom if you choose to have sex with a condom, which I highly recommend you do if you are having anal sex. Not only that, but water-based lube can help protect you from allergies as well, so you're less likely to have a reaction because all the stuff in there is a bit more natural. Now, not only should you be using a water-based lube, you should be using quite a lot of it. There is no such thing as too little when it comes to lube and anal sex. Go nuts, lube it up. Should be slipperier than a bathtub. The next piece of advice, go slow. Do not shove it in all at once. Gradually push whatever it is, whether it be a penis or whether it be a toy, gradually ease it in there slowly, making sure the person on the receiving end of it is comfortable at each step. And that leads us on to the last piece of advice, which is listen to your partner. Especially listen to the person who is on the receiving end. If they at any point express that they are uncomfortable or they're in pain and they wish to stop, stop. Completely withdraw, whatever it is, whether it be your penis or otherwise. Carrying on once a person has said that they don't want to is not only a complete abuse of trust, as this counts as a withdrawal of consent, but not listening to them, whether they're saying go slower or just stop in general, could mean that they build up more anxiety and stress around the idea of anal sex, which of course will tighten their muscles more, which will make it more painful and much less enjoyable experience for them later on. Even with all of this advice, it may still be painful your first time having anal sex. If that is the case, go back to the training, train more, gradually build up the size of the things that you're penetrating yourself with, but make sure you are using safe things for penetration. For example, do not be putting toothbrushes up there. Using sex toys that are specifically designed with materials that won't harm your body, especially in the intimate parts like your anus, are incredibly important. Do not risk damaging your anal cavity with toys that are unsafe for use. The safest thing, if you don't want to use toys, is just to use your fingers. Build up your comfortableness and also build up your stamina in terms of what you're able to handle. This will help you overall adjust to anal sex. If problems persist and it is still incredibly difficult for you to have anal sex, I would advise that you go online, particularly to forums regarding anal sex that could give you better advice, particularly for more niche problems. I only have the general gist of the best advice I can give. So if any problems persist after you've done all of these things, perhaps consult with the people of the internet. Next question. Right, now we're moving on to the general question section now. How can I be more confident with dirty talk? It makes me feel silly. I love this question because I think the biggest issue that people have with dirty talk is that they go from never speaking dirty to trying to sound like a porn star. Now, this is how I personally grew my dirty talking skills. Not to say I have skills, they might be terrible, but this is how I at least felt more comfortable with it. Stop trying to sound like a porn star and focus on how you as a person are feeling. If you focus more on the sensations within your own body and you focus on the situation you're in right then, you can come up with some banging lines that will make you feel incredibly comfortable because they're not coming from a place that isn't authentic. If something feels good, say that feels good. If you want more of it, be like, give me more. Obviously with more enthusiasm than how I just delivered it, because I think otherwise you'd be sending the wrong message. But these things will really help you grow your sexual confidence in terms of dirty talk because they're coming from an authentic place. You're not trying to sound like someone else. It's really coming from something that you're experiencing. You can use that then as a foundation to build upon more complex dirty talk, but just to start off with, try that. Next question. What is a fetish? Right, I'm gonna bust out the dictionary definition for this one. Someone who has an unusually strong liking or need for a particular object or activity as a way of getting sexual pleasure. Now, for example, this means that a person could be incredibly sexually attracted to feet and then they would have a foot fetish. Or they could be incredibly attracted to leather and they would have a leather fetish. Fetishes are completely natural and we cannot help the fetishes that we have or how they develop. They just exist as part of our sexualities, but they may be quite unusual to people who have no experience with those fetishes. Now, I only got a couple of questions about fetishes, but I thought they were quite important to address because fetish is something that as you become more sexually confident and sexually aware of yourself, you may realize you have one, and I don't want people to feel shocked if they or their partner have a fetish. So I just want to briefly touch on it because it is part of this wonderful world of sex. Should you always respect your boyfriend or girlfriend's sexual fetishes or fantasies? And the short answer to that is yes, because respecting your partner is one of the most important parts of sex and sexual relationships. If you are disrespectful or rude or hurtful about a sexual fetish that your partner can't actually help having, then you're not a very nice person. Opening up about a fetish can sometimes be a cause of shame and fear for a lot of people. You have to be very vulnerable in order to express a fetish because it is unusual. If you then meet that vulnerability with hostility and aggression, it will ruin a lot of the trust your partner has for you and they may never open up in the same way again. Having open and tolerant talks about fetishes and communicating what you are and are not comfortable with is a really important part of relationships. However, respecting your partner's fetish and being an active participant in your partner's fetish are different things. For example, if your partner has a really big foot fetish, but you are really uncomfortable with the idea of someone being around your feet, touching your feet, your partner with the fetish should equally respect that. Next question. Can I use stuff I have at home as lube, such as cooking oil or petroleum jelly? Right, I'm only going to say this once, so I beg you listen. Do not, please dear God, use cooking oil as lube, ever, under any circumstances. I know some people refer to their peepees as meat, but this is not meat you want to be slathering cooking oil on. Please, water-based lubricant is incredibly cheap online. It's a couple of quid, you can get it for order it. I think it's even on Amazon Prime. It's a lot safer than using just odd items you find around the house that could cause a reaction to your intimate parts, and they can also be harmful in general. You should be incredibly skeptical about putting anything down there. Next question, is watching porn normal? Yes! Pretty much every sex therapist and sexual psychologist will agree that porn has a natural and healthy part in our sexual activities and our sexual explorations. It can be great to watch solo during masturbation, no matter what your gender is, but it can also be fun to watch it as a couple. It can be incredibly exciting a lot of the time if, you are having sex with the same person a lot, to watch porn and introduce porn as part of sex. I'm not saying do it all the time, but maybe as a little treat. There's a little fun thing to do on the side. The only time you need to be concerned about your porn consumption is if you are watching it too frequently. This is if porn is affecting your daily life, if when you're going to work you're thinking about porn, if you're no longer able to have sex with your partner without thinking of porn or watching porn. These are all indications of porn addiction, which is an incredibly serious addiction, and it can control your life just like any other addiction. There's no shame in it, Lots of people get addicted to a lot of different things. I'll put a link in the description to some masturbation and also porn addiction groups, just so you can get the guidance you need to maybe see, is this a problem for me? Next question. Is it normal not to care about sex? My boyfriend has an incredibly high sex drive and I don't have one. Now, sex drive in general will change up and down throughout your entire life. It is completely normal to one day be incredibly horny, to want sex like nothing else, and then the next day, the idea of sex is just like, dear God, no. Things that can impact your sex drive massively are if you have lost a lot of weight or gained a lot of weight recently, if you've started taking contraception that has impacted your hormones, puberty, stress, for example, can affect your sex drive. Pretty much anything that impacts with your hormones and your mental state can affect your sex drive. Don't worry about it, it swings and roundabouts, it'll come around and it'll go around. Now, if you have no interest in sex at all, there's nothing wrong with you, you're completely okay, but you could be asexual. Now, this is a term that is used to describe people that have no interest in sexual relationships or in sex in general, but they do still have romantic relationships to other people, so they can still fall in love and be in relationships. They're just not interested in the sexual aspect. There is nothing wrong with you. If this is you, you're completely valid, you are normal, you're fine. Next question, is discharge a thing that most women deal with? Yes, discharge is just the vagina cleaning itself. This is the white stuff that you see in your underwear a lot of the time. Discharge should be a kind of white, creamy kind of colour, and it can be a lot sometimes and it can be not a lot other times, but most women will have discharge most days. The only times you really need to pay attention to discharge is, for example, if it becomes quite cottage cheesy in texture and in colour. This accompanied with, burning and itching could be a sign of thrush. Thrush is just a bacterial infection. You can get it from being too hot, for example, wearing tights a lot. Completely normal. Most women will experience it at some point in their life. Thrush is easily treatable. Just go to your doctor and say, think I have thrush. Or if you know what thrush is and you've had it before, you can just buy over-the-counter thrush treatment from Boots, for example, from a pharmacy. It doesn't cost very much. It's about 10 quid. And they can get it treated in about 3 days. Other times you should worry about your discharge is if it's consistently brown in colour. Now, a little bit of browny colour could be because you are at the end of your period, for example, but if you are having brown discharge a lot of the time, you should go to the doctors. The same for if your discharge is fishy or foul smelling, or if it is green, for example. These are all signs of an underlying issue. It can often be a sign of an STI. So if you ever experience these things in terms of your discharge, go to your doctor. These things are not shameful to go about. It's your body. You should make sure it's in tip-top condition. Your doctor won't mind. I promise you, it's completely fine. It's better safe than sorry, especially when it comes to our intimate areas. Next question. Does queefing put people off? Now, my general opinion on this is that if you are mature enough to have sex, you are mature enough to deal with the things that come with having sex. Now, queefing is one of those things that happens to come with the territory of having sex for a lot of people. Queefing is often caused by when you're having sex, air getting trapped inside the vagina. It gets kind of sucked in there, and then when the penis pulls out, the air expels itself, and it makes kind of like a little vagina fart. It's like queef, a little queef. It's a completely normal thing to happen. So no, I don't think that people see it as a turn off. It might just be a little funny, little bonus, a little added extra. Next question. How to make sex less painful, even if you've had it hundreds of times and you use lube. If this is the case for you and you are having sex frequently, you're using lube, you're properly turned on, you're relaxed, you're comfortable, and it is still painful, please, dear God, go to the doctors. Sex should not be painful. It should be pleasurable. And if it is painful, do not think that it's just, part of the parcel of sex. Suggests an underlying issue. So please go and get yourself checked out with the doctors. There's no shame in it. There's no issues with it. The doctor will completely understand and will be probably grateful that you've taken the choice to come in and talk about it, because if there is an issue there, they can help solve it. Right, this is the final question because I'm exhausted and I've been talking for 3 hours. I kid you not. 2 hours, 50 minutes we've got to with this. So one more question and then I'm done. I'm out. I'm calling it quits. Catholic guilt? Question mark. There wasn't anything else to this question, and I wanted to end on this one because it's something I've never personally experienced, but I know it is an issue, and I'm assuming they're referring to Catholic guilt in terms of the fact that the Catholic faith tends to teach abstinence, so it tends to teach you that you shouldn't have sex before marriage. And then for a lot of people, if they do choose to have sex before marriage, as is your choice because it is your body, there is a lot of guilt that is associated by that because no sex before marriage is something that's been instilled in people since they were children in a lot of cases. And breaking that can feel immoral, it can feel dirty, it can feel wrong. In regards to the Catholic and Christian faith in terms of the Bible, Adam and Eve made the earth, right? They had sex, they populated it, and here we all are. Adam and Eve weren't married because the institution of marriage wasn't even a thing yet, it wasn't invented, it didn't exist. So if Adam and Eve can do it, I would argue that it's fine. And there are more important pillars of your faith in terms of being good to your neighbour and being kind to other human beings, being understanding, charity work, things like that that are more important to being a Christian or being a Catholic than saving yourself for marriage. So please try not to judge yourself too harshly by the whole no sex before marriage thing, because it doesn't invalidate your beliefs at all. And that is my personal opinion. Feel free to disagree. That is okay. I'm an atheist. I probably shouldn't be giving advice on religion anyway. And that is the end of this video. My god, it is so long. Again, a huge thank you to Lilo for sponsoring this video. They're the reason that this kind of content is possible, so please check them out in the description below. They're amazing, they're lifesavers. I love you, Lilo. Please feel free to disagree with any of my answers or build upon answers that I've given in the comment section below. I would love to see some healthy discussions about sex and relationships in the comments below. If you do have any other questions that I haven't answered in this Q&A, head over to my Instagram. I'm gonna put a Q&A up and I'll answer any other questions. If you like this video, give it a cheeky little thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. It's a free world. You do you, boo. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!
I can't feel my face, no, faking on a Sunday.